Story 1. One night I was at the movie theater with my two friends Emily and Jake. On our way back home from the movie theater, we encountered a thunderstorm that we intended to enjoy. So we planned a sudden road trip. We were so indulged in the joyous discussion of the movie's tragic end during the drive that I didn't even notice that I took a wrong turn towards a road that is not used often because of its bad reputation. As we drove through the dense forest around us, with rain falling all over our car, the atmosphere grew tense. Emily complained that she saw a shadow moving away from the headlights' glow, making strange shapes upon the path ahead of us. Jake is afraid but in continuous denial that there is nothing, and Emily is just overthinking. Suddenly, my car bumped over a pavement hole and the engine of the car choked dead. Our hearts were racing as we tried to get out of the car to fix the engine. Emily pointed outside of the windshield with expressions of fear dripping down her face. Jake asked her what was wrong, but she didn't respond and kept pointing outwards. She insisted that she saw a terrifying woman in front of us standing in the middle of the road, covered with blood in this heavy rain. But neither Jake nor I could see anything. I was continuously trying to restart the car, turning the key again and again in the ignition, and finally, it started. After that, Jake and Emily argued about the woman that Emily claimed to have seen. As we drove away, we heard a distant sound of a scream that sent shivers down our spines. Emily's eyes were wide open, and I got a feeling of something fishy as well. As we went down that road, the sound of a scream came closer, and it started to echo around us. We all started to panic. Even Jake was confused now and wanted to end this trip. Though we couldn't see anything, the terrifying screams followed us for a long time. Emily fell into an eerie silence and didn't talk after that. Suddenly, she started pointing outside towards the forest and insisted that the scream was coming from the forest. Jake got frustrated and told me to stop the car. He got out just to prove Emily wrong. Standing by the roadside, he took his phone out and aimed his phone's flashlight into the bushes. As he did, I saw the silhouette of a woman growing just behind him. I honked the car's horn repeatedly, desperate to warn him, but he remained unaffected, the light from his phone fixed on the bushes. In an instant, the woman struck him on the head, and he fell lifeless. As I tried to get out of the car, a group of people came out of the bushes and dragged Jake into the forest. Emily and I started screaming as we saw our friend being dragged lifeless into the forest. We rushed to save him, but people around him came at us with daggers in their hands, and he vanished into the darkness. We drove for about an hour around that spot to save him, but he was nowhere to be seen. I called the police, but as I told them about the road that we were on, they told me to get out of there immediately as no one came out of there alive. Emily and I drove silently towards home after that. Jake was never heard from or seen again. That night still haunts us. It was the night we lost our friend.
Story 2. About a year ago, I had to travel to another city, but all the flights were booked and I had to reach there within a day, so I decided to go for a road trip. And this way, I wanted to visit some places along the way. I left after my lunch and drove for about 4 hours, but I did stop at a few places and found myself driving on the road late at night. I was getting really tired, so I decided to look for a hotel. I pulled off the freeway and drove down the road looking for a gas station where I could fill up my tank and then look up a nearby hotel on my phone. I drove down a quieter road for maybe 2 or 3 miles. It was a lot longer than I thought it would take to reach a gas station, and I was starting to think about turning around when suddenly I saw a sign for a gas station up ahead. I had to take another road to the left, and then I saw this small gas station off in the distance. I pulled in and filled my tank. It was a small gas station, and it seemed to be sort of out in the middle of nowhere. When I was done, I went on my phone to look up a hotel, but when I did, I didn't have any service. I looked at the gas station, but the building part of it was closed. I didn't see any other cars or businesses on these roads at all. I figured I'd better just get back to the freeway and drive down it some more until I would have a signal on my phone. I started my engine and began driving back. I left the gas station, went down the quiet road, and then took a right. When I took a turn, I got a feeling that something wasn't right. Maybe I'd turned too soon, or maybe I missed the turn. It was dark outside, and the directions I had on my phone were not working because of the no signal problem. I drove down the road and saw a sign with the name of the exit on it. I felt better and turned to drive that way. When I pulled onto the road, I saw a detour sign and a truck with flashing lights up ahead. I guess they were doing some sort of road construction, and I was forced to turn right instead of going straight. This was frustrating to me because I didn't know how long it was going to delay me, but what could I do? At least I was going in the right direction now. I drove down the road and then saw another detour sign telling me to turn once again. When I got to this road, it seemed even darker and quieter than the ones that I had been on. By now, I was feeling very lost. I drove down the next road for a minute or so, but then it suddenly stopped. It had led me right to a dead end. This had to be a mistake. The road just ended abruptly, and right in front of me was a woods. I stopped my car and took out my phone again. Still no signal. I was feeling creeped out by all this. I started to turn my car around, but just then I saw several people coming out of the woods. They were all headed for my car and appeared to possibly have guns in their hands. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I slammed my foot to the gas pedal as hard as I could and drove my way out of there. As I started to drive, I heard somebody try to open the door of my rear driver's side. I sped away as fast as my car could go. I didn't hear any shots or anything like that, and I looked in the mirror to see the guy who had tried to get in my car running after me. Luckily, I was able to drive away. I tried my best to retrace the roads I had been on. When I made it back to the original detour sign, it was now gone. I kept driving and was eventually able to find the gas station that I had been to. I started driving down roads, hoping to find my way back. I was pretty scared as I drove around those roads at night, but I never saw any other cars. Eventually, I was able to finally make it back to the freeway again, and later on, I had service and got a hotel. I hope to never have an experience like that again.
Story 3. I was kind of bored at home and the weather was pleasant, so I thought of a solo road trip. As I got into my car and drove a few miles, it started raining, and those windshield wipers were the only way I could see the road. I had a tight grip on the steering wheel to control the car on the bumpy road. The night was already freaky enough with rain drumming on the roof, but things got next level creepy when I spotted someone on the side of the road. A strange person, just standing there, half lost in the shadows and drenched with rain. And he was standing with his arm out asking for a ride. He was hitchhiking in a monsoon. It was dangerous to pick up strangers at night, so I decided not to give him the ride. I bent down to look at the mystery man as I passed through him, and then a quick peek in the rearview mirror just to make sure he isn't following my car or something. But he was just standing there. Then about 5 kilometers down the road, I felt a cold wave sliding down my spine. It was another person standing beside the road, asking for a ride. This time I went near him to inquire. As I slowed the car down near him, I was shocked to see that it was the same man. He was facing down with a creepy smile slightly visible on his face and arm waving in the air, asking for a lift. That was not a friendly grin. I screamed out of fear, and I hit the gas as if my life was dependent on it. I didn't stop for some time till the man in my rear view disappeared. My hands were shivering at this point. I couldn't understand the same person standing beside the road after 5 kilometers with an ominous grin on his face. Things didn't just end here. After every turn and twist on that rainy night, the same person was standing beside the road laughing like a maniac. I thought that I was losing my mind, or maybe hallucinating. I wanted to close my eyes, but I had to drive away. I didn't know if it was the same person or a group of people trying to rob me. But the creepy grin and spooky laugh that I remember was the same every time. I was about to collapse at that point. Just when I thought I needed to call the police, a gas station appeared in front of me. I parked my car and grabbed my phone. With trembling fingers, I dialed my friend Mike's number, who lived nearby. Hearing his voice was like a relief at that time. He told me to stay where I am, and I did the same. While I was waiting in the light and shade of the gas station, I saw the same figure standing behind the tree on the other side of the room, looking right at me. I was stunned as he waved his hand at me. I started screaming, and as I turned to run, my friend came in his car and came out to help me. I pointed towards that man in the tree, but he wasn't there. Mike tried to talk me out of that state, but I was certain that I saw that person following me. He told me to park my car at a gas station and took me to his home in his car. I kept peeking in the rear view, expecting to see that man with a creepy smile again appearing out of nowhere. Mike's chatter was like a therapy that took me out of that trauma. But that image of the grinning stranger was stuck in my mind, and it's there till now, like a constant reminder that sometimes reality can be scarier than any nightmare. Thanks for watching the Haunted Sketchbook. Be sure to check out any of the videos on screen right now if you're planning on not sleeping tonight.